Good morning, Coach. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I got you, Kelly. Go ahead.
Okay, great. We'll get started with questions. First question will be from Adam.
Yep.
Hey, Sean. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Adam. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, thanks. Hey, so I'll ask you the same thing now that I did yesterday ahead of the announcement. As far as you guys just making a kind of a pivot to fly over tonight, that seems like a relatively small impact thing given what this team has been through and what it's been conditioned through. So a lot of the adversity and the logistics. How much, if at all, does that impact your preparation for this game?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Typically guys are done on Friday and you can get home with your family for, what they call date night or in the NFL or whatever, or just family night, right? And just some time to kind of decompress and unplug. And in this case, we'll be using that time to get on a plane and head to Chicago. So not really, missing anything, if you will, other than, that time at home and sleeping in your own bed. But we got to do what we got to do at the end of the day.
Thank you, Sean.
Sure.
I don't know.
When did it come?
It says last Thursday.
Hey, Sean, with Jordan Poyer, he's navigated so many different injuries this year. Is he a case where it's a little different just knowing how familiar he is with everything, where he's able to, it's more likely he can play even if he has such limited practice time this week, or what does that look like for him?
Yeah, I mean, he's done such a good job. He's been in the system for a number of years, Catherine, and so we're extremely comfortable with him. Obviously not getting a whole lot of practice reps this week. We'll just see how it goes today.
I think this was his first Pro Bowl nod. You obviously know what he's meant to this team. What was it like just to see him get that honor?
Yeah, happy for him. He worked extremely hard. This game is important to him, and I know that this team is important to him as well. And he's one of our leaders, and he's done a good job this year. And had to push through some injuries, and obviously this week being one of them. So just happy for him and his family.
Thanks.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, I know you talked about this a little bit with Sal on the radio, but I was just curious, tomorrow, not being in the facility, what does tomorrow kind of look like? Is it a walkthrough in the hotel? How is that kind of going to go?
Yeah, so some of it is TBD, Elena, just because of the recency of the news that we're moving our departure time up. So we're working behind the scenes on some of that. We do want to get a walkthrough, and if we can, if we cannot get out to get one, then we'll do it in the hotel in the ballrooms that are provided.
So going to somewhere outside to do a walkthrough is a possibility.
It is a possibility.
Okay. And then I was just curious, kind of similar on the Mitch Morse making the Pro Bowl. He's someone who has played a lot of game, gets a lot of starts, important for that offensive line. What was that like, seeing him get that nod? Yeah,
super happy for him as well. The journey that he's been on since coming here several years ago as a free agent, and just seeing him develop off the field, on the field, and now having a family. And I mean, that's part of, again, the joys of being a coach, is watching these players and their, in their development on the field, but also off the field.
And then I was just curious, for this offensive line, there's been different injuries this year, just not having Mitch on Saturday. Just what does that look like for this group, and how much confidence do you have in them to kind of, he's obviously a key part, a vocal leader. What does that group how much confidence in having different combinations this year? What does that kind of look like with not having him?
Yeah, that's why you have the players that you have, and they work hard while they're, not in the starting lineup per se. And, you trust the guys that are behind them to be prepared and to have been working the whole season, so that when their number's called, they do a good job for you.
Thanks. Sure. And safe travels.
Hey, thanks.
Hey, Sean. Weird not being in the same room, like our new routine. But with the offensive line, Ike Boettger, serious injury, not one that's easy to come back from. I know you've talked about his journey back here, but is he, from your perspective, do you feel he's still kind of working his way back in terms of getting acclimated to speed and conditioning and things like that?
Yeah, there's a ramp up period, right? Like there is for, the team as we go into training camp. We have that, specified ramp up period. And then it is, again, for a player coming back in the middle of the season, in this case, that, you're checking boxes as you go. which I think it's great that the league has that, 3-week window to come back and to get themselves back and ready to go. And even then, you're still always, you're still playing, better and better each rep. So the more reps you get, the better it is usually.
And then obviously Trey's an example, guys with serious injuries, with long rehabs. In Ike's instance, have you seen his battle back kind of resonate and lift up and inspire the rest of the group in that offensive line room, and especially to see him get to the point where he is almost a year to the day of suffering the injury? Does that kind of rise and lift that group up, I guess emotionally?
Yeah, it's inspirational, right? When you watch a guy who's gone through that journey, as you mentioned, and has worked hard and persevered through it, through the ups of it, but also the downs. And there's been, like any injury, there's challenging days and weeks. It's challenging not only for the player, but also the families, as I mentioned yesterday, that are affected by it, right? So there's a little bit of a trickle down effect there. And so that support that he's gotten from his family, his wife, and his parents and everything, I think has been phenomenal. And then hopefully the team as well. And now he's back in a good position. And you learn a lot through those situations, I think, as a player, in particular in this situation.
Thanks, Sean.
Hey, Sean, I know you mentioned on the radio that there's still some stuff kind of to be determined about getting back after the game. So I was just kind of curious, you guys are obviously no strangers at this point to weather making the schedule really weird for y'all, but it felt like getting to Detroit for the Browns game, it took so much to get there. Whereas here it's maybe a bit more even about getting back. And I was wondering what that's like for you. Like, does that kind of hang over you, or like you get here and that still might be a factor? Or how do you compartmentalize that when it's on both ends of the trip, maybe to a greater extent?
Yeah, the safety is number one, right? So we're always gonna, as in this case, moving it up, our departure time to tonight was about safety. And then on the way back, that's what we have to start with is and prioritize. Priority number one has got to be safety. And after that, it's soon thereafter, it's priority number two, which is getting everybody back for Christmas. And I think it's important, though, that we can compartmentalize, and that's what you're called to do in these situations as an elite performer, elite athlete, for the players. And that's to, you got a job to do. We got a purpose of why we're going out there, and compartmentalize that, and then trust that what's going on behind the scenes, is going to take care of getting us back and getting us back safely.
And then you mentioned how the walkthrough could be many different places, maybe in the hotel, in a ballroom. Where's maybe, all your time in football, the weirdest place you've ever had a walkthrough?
That's a great question. I think in multiple ballrooms, I would say some more conducive for a walkthrough with 70 guys than others. When we used to make 2-day trips to the West Coast, we would just find some fields or in a parking lot of a hotel to do a walkthrough. And here, you're thinking, man, like if people only knew there's all these professional athletes that are, walking through that people want access to on a normal basis. They're right in a vacant hotel parking lot. So you do what you got to do, like any team.
Okay, whatever works. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Safe travels.
All right, thanks. You too.
That's all for today. Thanks, Coach.
All right, thanks, guys.